welcome into Road to the Draft. I forgot I was hosting. I started taking a sip of Gatorade there. What up, Tyler? How you doing?
Hey, what's up? We're running here.
How am I looking on your 1/3 of a screen you got going?
You're like actually. I mean, my head too. It's about a centimeter. I think if I was to pull a ruler up, we're like between 1 and 2 centimeters. Our heads. Got my screen a little crazy right now.
Yeah. We've got a pretty good one for you guys today. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, so we're just gonna get right into it. I'd say it's probably your favorite time of year. For me, it's my first year really getting into the NBA, not the NBA draft. Sorry, that's all. And I was watching that earlier. The MLB draft.
Yeah, no, I was. It's kind of funny. I made a tweet earlier, like asking if people had questions and stuff, and was gonna just say, hey, we're recording talking about the draft. And it's like there's literally a draft happening today, so I got to be more specific. Drop that it is the MLB draft. So yeah, this is definitely my favorite time of the year. I mean, this is the coolest phenomenon in like all of pro sports. This draft, there's so much that goes on, behind the scenes, but then even in front of the on stage, to continue the analogy, like there's so much going on that's kind of hard to really like wrap your head around, like what really is going on. Why did a team take that player? What's going on? There's nothing really that's at face value with it. So it's super fun, super complicated, and it's just a great system to really get familiar with.
Yeah, so in any other draft, you have first guy goes first, second guy goes second. The MLB draft's a little different. It's not all about talent. There's a money aspect to it. Go and just explain that to the people.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, it's just most drafts, it is purely, best player available considering fit. The MLB draft, every pick is assigned a slot value. And I mean, in other sports, like kind of every pick also has a slot value. Like they're getting that contract, but there's no room for negotiation. Well, there's room for negotiation, but not really. In the MLB draft, every pick value is up for negotiation. You can save $1 million here, go over $1 million there. And so I guess we could jump into some of these specific pick values that the Rockies have, and just kind of that bigger picture. The total pool is $17,243,400. So they have all that money to spread to all 21 of their draft picks. And of course, it's not an even system. Like you're not giving every guy a 1/21th of that. The first pick the Rockies have, number 3, is allocated just over $9 million. So whoever they pick at 3 is getting in the range of $9 million, but it can be above, it can be below that. At some point, though, that money is going to get spent. So it gives you the opportunity to get creative with your draft. And that is what makes this such a crazy, unpredictable system. You might see a guy and you're like, wait, he's not the best player that was on the board. Why he could have gone, he might have been there at their next pick. There's always going to be money involved.
Yeah, and we always talk about how weird this draft is. It's even weirder because it went up 10%. All the picks went up by 10% compared to last year. In the draft class, I don't think it's as good as last year. I think that's not even a hot take. You don't have the schemes or the length for it at the top. So how does that make it, in terms of this draft class, only more interesting, or does it change it a little bit?
No, it's a really good point because wanted to bring up, the Rockies slot value for pick number 3. There is still pick number 2 and pick number 1. Only 2 players have ever received a signing bonus of $9 million and above, and only 1 player has received a signing bonus greater than the Rockies slot this year, and that was Paul Skeens last year. And Paul Skeens is now one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, so it kind of goes to show you what the standard is to get up there. I think there's always going to be that, the picks are being inflated by whatever MLB's revenue is. They're going to inflate the picks by, whatever gain it was year to year. And so the same thing I think is going to happen with these players. Like the equivalent of a Paul Skeens would get $10 million this year as like a 10% boost. And so if you find kind of an equivalent, you're going to be able to get a lot of that money. So this year's, there's going to be some inflation, but also you're lacking that true Paul Skeens guy that teams are just, salivating over as the next Steven Strasburg. So it does make things a little more interesting. There's going to be some money saved at the top of the draft.
And what players have leverage? Like, what is it? High school players, college players? What players usually are the ones that you have to go over slot for?
Yeah, and that's a good question and really bridges us. So you think about that negotiation. You might go over the slot. Some guy might say your pick is worth $9 million. Well, if I'm going to sign with you, I want $9.2 million. The players that really have the leverage to do that are going to be high school players because they actually have the back door saying, give me this amount or I'm not going to sign with you. Because a high school guy is going to say, all right, I'll go to college. I'll make NIL money, and then I'll re-enter the draft in 2 or 3 years, depending on how old they are. Some of these college guys will have a little bit of leverage. Like, someone like a Paul Skeens is going to get what he wants. No one would really tell Paul Skeens no if his demand was reasonable, but it really is like those high school guys. They can truly manipulate any of these pick values. They're very often getting more than whatever a pick is assigned. That's why so many of the top prospects that are high schoolers end up going to college, because teams don't want to meet those demands. They want to get college players that they can, more easily acquire, not have to deal with the leverage that they bring to the table.
Yeah, I almost wonder with, now that college players get paid, I wonder if the drafting of high schoolers, if that's almost just going to become extinct in the next couple of years, unless you're like one of the top end guys, like it was like number one. I think it's going to sooner or later become super rare to see, especially in rounds 2 and 3. Like we'll get to later. Like I think we should probably take a prep pitcher there, but I doubt in the future that's going to happen. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know the number they usually get drafted yearly, but I think as we're continuing to go along with this, fewer those mid-range prep guys are going to go. We see always in every draft, and it's kind of weird, guys at the very end of the draft. We saw it with the Rockies last year. I think it was the 20th round or 19th round. They took a kid from Puerto Rico, the International Baseball Academy there. I think he just turned 18 when they picked him. So he could have gone to he could have gone to college, but instead the Rockies signed him for like $175,000 or something. So a lot of guys at the end of the draft, the high schoolers are like, I just want to go pro. I don't want to go to college. So I think that's always going to be in mind there. But, these high school kids are going to say, if I'm good enough, I can just go to college and make a couple $100,000 at a Power 5 school, re-enter the draft, and then hopefully make millions. And they want to bet on themselves too. So, it is a good point. Some of those high school guys are going to be hard to acquire in the future.
Yeah, and a lot of those high school guys end up, making their stock even higher, and they go even higher in the draft. So it kind of goes each way. Let's get into something that it's bothered us kind of last couple of weeks, this positional value thing. People I don't want to say aware, that feels like I'm condescending, but I feel like it's not talked about enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are really looking at, I think it ends up coming down a lot to need, and especially at the MLB roster. It's not really like in our system even. It's more like, oh, right now the Rockies don't have a first baseman. We should be looking at drafting a first baseman. But it's just tough to view the draft like that. That's, again, this draft doesn't work like others in which you draft a player and he's in your starting lineup, the second your team is playing. This is a draft where guys are going to spend anywhere from 6 months. That's the absolute lowest usually. If a guy's on the opening day roster after the draft, like that's rare. If a guy even gets to the big leagues the season following their draft, that's rare. It is usually 2 up to 5 or 6 years that guys are going to get to the big leagues after the draft. So you cannot draft with your big league roster in mind right now. The Rockies might, stumble upon some great first baseman, and that reduces that need. So it really should not come down to need in the draft. It comes down to positional value. And when you think about what's the hardest position to play on the baseball field, and if you did not think center field, shortstop, and catcher is difficult, but in some ways catcher is different. So catchers aren't always, given the burden of hitting. They don't need to hit as much. They're not going to be as athletic. It is shortstop and center field. They're the most valuable positions in baseball from this drafting perspective, from the perspective of teams wanting to allocate money on their roster, sort of like the quarterback position on a football roster. Like teams want to spend on a shortstop and a center fielder. They're the hardest positions to replace defensively because you have to be really athletic, and then you've got to go and be a two-way player as well, unless your team is willing to sacrifice the bat there. So shortstop, center field, very valuable. Really, if you can play up the middle at all, including second base a little bit, you're gonna be viewed a little bit higher than some other players. But third base, left and right field, those are also in the mix. And then again, catcher's kind of that wild card. It's sort of just a tick below shortstop and center field, but you just hardly see great bats at the catcher position that warrant it being in the discussion of like, do you want to take the shortstop, the catcher, the center fielder? Because there's just not that many good catchers. So to boil that down, shortstops, center fielders, guys with it comes down to athleticism at the end of the day. Like, you play center field, shortstop because you're athletic. That athleticism is what teams are looking for. It gives you, backup options. It allows you to be an asset on the base paths. And in some cases, athleticism translates to your ability to hit for power. Depending on who you are, it shows the twitch that's in your muscles in your body. So teams are looking for athleticism, and that comes a lot at shortstop and center field.
It's funny that you say that because there's a lot of prospects in this draft. Like Tommy White's a guy I love, but he's kind of stuck. What kind of prospects do you think are hurt most inside this draft class because they don't play a lot of positions, or if they do, it's like first base, third base?
You mean specific guys, pretty much?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so for this year, you nailed Tommy White, and that's a guy that could be in play for the Rockies with either of their second picks, 38 or 42. The ones at the top of the draft, and I think this might be more what you were alluding to. There's two first base prospects at the top of this draft that people are interested in, and rightfully so. They're incredible hitters. Jack Caglianone and Nick Kurtz, and we're going to talk about Jack mostly as a hitter. Like, there's a chance he could develop as more like a relief pitcher, but Jack Caglianone is probably going to just hit in the pros. Just the stuff on the mound is good, not great, and the command is really lacking. So probably just a first baseman. But then between him and Nick Kurtz, they are first basemen, and their bats are kind of on par with several of the other hitters in this class who can go out and play another position, be versatile, and leave that first base spot open. Just think about the Rockies right now. Chris Bryant playing first base as a backup option because he can't play elsewhere now. That's a position you really don't want to, lock yourself into with a franchise player, until you're in a great position overall as a team.
I almost treat the first base spot as like a second DH. We're seeing a lot of these teams like Bryce Harper, like you have an injury to your arm, here, go play first base. So I think it's really valuable to have that open, and that's why I think these picks fall like normally. I want to go back. We talked about it before. The first baseman narrative, we've talked about it a lot, but we go like Jacob Berry, who's struggling mightily in the minor leagues. Spencer Torkelson, AAA guy, first overall pick, has not panned out. Andrew Vaughn, not what you want out of a first-round pick. Keston Hiura, no. Huge bust is what you put in the notes. And then, of course, you have like Nolan Schanuel, who I think his ceiling, we've seen this year, his ceiling is gone down. I want to say like the fantasy we have of the top end Nolan Schanuel player has gone down. We no longer think that. So these first basemen, they may be hit only guys, but a lot of them do not hit inside the MLB.
And really what it comes down to is, it puts all the pressure on their bat. And when you have a guy like Jacob Berry, who people were like, oh, this guy has a ton of power and he's going to hit really well. His career minor league OPS at this point it's like in the 600s. You're not going to get to the big leagues as a first baseman with a 600 OPS. And a lot of these hitters, they come into the pros, the likelihoods of them being good enough to get to the pros, it all ends up overlapping a lot. Like the odds that a random, third round prospect that plays third base versus a, guy that plays first base, the odds of them getting there off their bat, it's similar. So you want a guy that also has a defensive position, also maybe the possibility of developing into a great defender at a defensive position that's viewed as an asset. So, first base is tough. But yeah, like you mentioned, it kind of is a second DH. Like you can literally put anyone there. There's nuance to the position. I don't want to disrespect all first basemen out there, but you can develop anyone.
You can throw Scott Hatteberg out there and he can play it.
Yeah, he's going to get by. He might be terrible, but he will get by. He's not going to take runs away from the team. You can't go have anyone play shortstop, second base, third base even, and then the outfield, of course. You got to have legs out there.
So let's go and just get into pick 3. Sell me. There's one guy that's rising up draft boards, and I might not understand it. I look at this season's stats. He didn't play a lot. They weren't really that great. J.J. Weatherholt, why is he going right up people's boards? I feel like he's like first overall in the new pipeline mock draft.
Yeah, you come to the right place to be sold on JJ Weatherholt. Man, coming into the year, he was my number one prospect for sure, like far and away. I mean, Travis Bazzana was kind of like there with him going into the season, but it was like if this JJ Weatherholt cat progresses in his junior year, we're going to be looking at one of the best hitters we've seen in several years. That didn't happen. Hamstring injury kept him out for like 2 months. He came back. It was good, not great production. You got to wonder that the lack of repetition, like being out for 2 months, coming back into conference play, like how that affected his ability to hit this year and hit at a high level. So there is that in play. Like the numbers were not at the close to the same level as Condon and Bazzana from the box score perspective. But when you go look under the hood and scouts are looking a lot at like, of course, how much contact is a guy making? That's everyone cares about how much contact a guy's making. How many pitches do they chase? Like, what is their plate discipline like? And those, when you evaluate those categories, JJ Weatherholt is as good as any player in this draft. So he has a case as one of the best players in the draft. And you mentioned him, in some mocks being the number one pick. That's where we talked about the overslot, underslot, money manipulation type of stuff. He's someone that if the Guardians or the Reds were to take him, they're going to save a lot of money at that pick and be able to spend it later in the draft. So I think that's why he's becoming, a very popular pick again. People realize like, oh, we can get creative maybe with him, but also such a good player. So that's going to be a fun story to watch.
Yeah, this is why I kind of like the MLB draft. I think you get rewarded more for being a better scouting department. Like if you think someone's way better than everybody else and you're right and you can underslot them, like you gain so much more than in any other draft. And I'll go back on, I love Weatherholt and he can play shortstop. Bazzana, not really. He can play it more than Bazzana. Bazzana, though, or Bazzana, elite name. But
yeah,
do you think he's number one? Does he go one? Is he on the Rockies board, or like what's going on with Bazzana?
I mean, I think at this point he's the number one player. And I mean, anytime I'm on like Instagram and I see like either MLB Pipeline or Baseball America post and I pull their new list, everyone has Travis Bazzana number one overall. Like he's the top prospect on every board. And people are like, it's crazy you don't have Charlie Condon up there. I mean, their numbers in college are kind of similar, but that's another one. You got to look under the hood. And Travis Bazzana is so polished as a player. Like you would be pressed to find a single flaw in his game. Like he's maybe not elite in any one way, but he is great in every way. Like when you think about the scouting scale, like he's probably a 70 grade hitter, if not, 60 grade hitter. He's got 60 grade power. He's a good runner. He's going to steal 20 bases in the big leagues, on a yearly basis. And he plays a decent second base. So there's just little to no risk there. And I mean, that makes it such a fun profile. He's a guy that we talked about, we talked about Nolan Shanwell got pushed to the big leagues real fast. Just those quick timelines. Travis Bazzana is that type of guy that could be in the big leagues like today, and he'd probably hold his own. But I'm sure he would get at least a year before coming up. So just such a fun, safe, and a prospect with a high ceiling. So love that dude.
Are those two? Would you put them in the top 20 of MLB prospects the day they get drafted?
Yeah, I would probably put Bazzana. I'd be tempted to put him top 5. I'd certainly be putting him like top 7 to 9. Like he's that good to me. Like just again, zero questions really about the bat. There's not many hitters there's not many prospects that are 60-60, like 60 hit, 60 power. And again, I think you make the case that Bazzana is a 70 hit guy. I really don't know if there is a guy like that in the minor leagues. Charlie Condon, I mean, I don't think he's far behind. I'd probably say he's a top 15 prospect. You could maybe make the case a little bit higher than that. Other than that, I think a lot of the next tier of players, I think, are more like you're arguing top 25, top 30. They're going to be a little bit behind Bazzana and Condon in those top 100 lists.
Next guy I'm going to bring up, I think he's a franchise-changing guy, right? He's one of the best hitters we've ever seen in college. I think he's a guy that if you see him on the market, you got to give all the money you can at him. Charlie Condon, you had a really interesting player comp for this guy because you put him in your lineup and he's going to rake. So you got to whatever it takes to get him, right? What is your player comp for Charlie Condon?
Yeah, I want to first plant the seed. I just want to plant these seeds right now. Think about a third baseman, but athletic enough to play the outfield. Setting home run records, right-handed bat, tons of balls in the air. If I love Chris Bryant, that's Chris Bryant, and Charlie Condon is Chris Bryant, and that's what I was trying to get at. These are the faces of college baseball for their decade, like truly. And I think Travis Bazan is a better prospect, but Charlie Condon was the best player college baseball has seen in several years, at least on the offensive side. Paul Skeens was there last year. Chris Bryant, they're the same. They're basically the same. They're 10 years apart. They're the same. So Rockies fans, I'm sure that gets you really excited about Charlie Condon, knowing that he's almost a carbon copy of Chris Bryant.
Yeah, well, Chris Bryant was on a Hall of Fame trajectory for a couple of years. So, I mean, of course, the name Chris Bryant has some weight to it when you're a Rockies fan, but outside of Rockies Nation, it's a good – he won an MVP, so it'd be a good pick. I'm going to ask next, these pitchers. We need pitching. We always need pitching. Feels like that's always the issue. Hagen Smith, Chase Burns, those are probably 1-2 right now. Who do you like more?
I mean, I think this is the toughest question in the draft, and it's why I don't want the Rockies to be pressed with it. Like I don't know if there's a right answer, because both have just really elite tools in some way or another. Both to me also have like serious drawbacks, things that are not polished, things that make them not Paul Skeens level. If I'm forced to pick one, I will go Chase Burns. I think his issues might be a little more correctable, something that you can hide. For me, with Chase Burns, the issue, I mean, I guess we haven't released our graphic yet on him. The OPS against his fastball, and I can't do the over-under game with you because I know you know it. The OPS against his fastball issue was 998. Like that's super high. That like you don't want to see any pitch getting hit to that level, let alone a fastball that is supposed to be kind of the guiding light of his arsenal, like the pitch that's going to get him by. It gets crushed, and a lot of that's because he is a really high slot where pitcher or hitters see the ball, and it's kind of a flat pitch in terms of or I don't want to say flat. It's a very straight pitch. It doesn't have a ton of arm side movement. It gets up on hitters, and that's where it can be great, but it gets seen and it gets hit a lot by guys. So that's where the Chase Burns kind of, I'm like a little, maybe Hagen Smith, but Hagen Smith throws 2 pitches right now. There's been, you see a scouting report on MLB.com. They're like, oh, he also has a splitter. He threw it like 60 times maybe this year out of probably like 1,200 pitches. Like that thing was hardly to be seen. He didn't need it, but I think it's to be determined how well he can use that pitch. So, I just have a hard time seeing either be like those surefire, like ace caliber pitchers, maybe even like number 2 starters. Like there's some issues with both of them. There's risk. But I go Chase Burns.
Yeah, it's funny. You sent me over the numbers, and I had to like text you. I was like, "Is this a typo? Like 900 OPS?"
Yeah, it's. I mean, he's like a single away from a 1,000 OPS against that fastball.
Yeah, it's like 990. I always laugh because when people say like, this pitcher's middle of the rotation, I always got to remind people like that's probably our opening day starter then. Like, yeah. So that'd be a good prospect for us. But any other picks? What is the? I think I asked you this a couple weeks ago. What is the lowest ranked player you would be happy with the Rockies taking at number 3?
At this point, I think it's really thinned down. Like in the past, there was kind of like, oh, maybe Connor Griffin. Maybe you can get really creative and say Trey Yesovich. I think now there's a very firm top 7. Maybe you can make the case for 8 with Braden Montgomery as that 8th guy. I think Nick Kurtz is firmly in the mix, especially as an underslot guy. I think Braden Montgomery is that 8th guy where you sort of are like, that's where you're starting to ask yourself questions, and that's where, I think the comfort level would end. If they took Braden Montgomery, I'd be fine with it. I think he has huge tools to work with, but that's probably the very firm line that you draw in the sand.
There you go. And I think Braden Montgomery had an injury, right? So that's even more of a question mark.
Yeah, I think he would have been in talks in the top 5, in the top 3 even, but he broke his ankle, and that's not one of those injuries that you're like, muscular or something to the knee, like a ligament. This is like, dude broke his ankle. Like that thing is, the bone's going to heal. He's going to rehab. It'll be okay. But in the meantime, like teams want to draft healthy players, and that's, we see that time and time again. Health is always going to drop guys. So that's where the real hesitation comes in now.
There you go. I think I would take a broken ankle over a hamstring injury 10 out of 10 times. No one ever re-aggravates a broken ankle. I don't even think it's possible. So
yeah, as long as you just don't run on that thing after like 2 months. That should heal well. So it's not the type of injury that should make you have a lot of pause. Like, he shouldn't drop out of the top 10, but he was a guy that had some serious helium to go top 5, and I'm just not sure that's going to happen anymore.
Yeah, it kind of feels like everybody around him's gaining some steam, and he kind of just sat still, and so that's kind of why he's falling. There's a guy from Tampa. He's kind of crazy, Jack Caglianone. I don't know what to do with this guy. Give me your car salesman pitch to as if we drafted him, why should I be excited?
All right, I got to get into character. And I like Jack. So I'll, as the objective third party, I'll say I like Jack. I'd be happy if he was, taken by the Rockies. Getting into car salesman mode, let me put on some glasses real quick, sell this car to you. A lot of horsepower, a lot of power with Jack Caglianone. He is, we all see that. Anytime you see a highlight of him, it is him hitting a 440-foot home run. It's, him and Charlie Condon, they should have a home run derby to really like decide it all, who has more power. It's super close between the two. What's really special about Jack, though, is how much contact he actually makes. Like, he has his strikeout rate might indicate, some swing and miss. He makes a ton of contact in zone. What kind of gets him, but I promise this is nothing to worry about. His chase rate is like 30. I think it's like 36%. I haven't checked on it since the college playoffs started. It's a super high chase rate. You want to see a chase rate like high teens into the mid 20s. Jack is in the mid upper 30s for chase rate. So, again, stepping out of character, that is a real concern as a hitter, that he's going to be free swinging up there quite a bit. And that might mitigate how much he can get into his power, how many balls he's going to end up putting on the ground, waving at a breaking ball low and away. And then the other thing, the pitching side of things, I don't really see it. I mean, the power and the potential is there, but the walk rate is way too high. Like, you have to try and develop this guy as a hitter. Do you have time to develop him as a pitcher and turn him into a starter? You might be best off taking a guy like him and putting all your eggs in one basket. The two-way potential seems to have really, really waned. Best case, maybe he's a reliever, a power reliever, which that'd be great, but I just don't know if teams are in the market to develop a reliever two-way guy.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem to be worth it. Just put all that. I think the Giants had a dude in like high A that the second the season started, they were like, all right, never mind.
Yeah, Bryce Eldridge, those guys are kind of similar. Him and Jack. If Bryce Eldridge went to college, I think he would have been Jack Caglianone in 3 years.
So we talk about like this grading scale, and I feel like we never see 80 out of 80 power. Is this 80 out of 80 power, or are we never going to see 80 out of 80 power?
I mean, I guess the tricky thing is, I think there's supposedly an objective school of thought on this that like 80 grade is reserved for like the best 5 or less. Like I think most people say it's like the best 2 or 3 tools in the game. Like, you give an 80 power to like Aaron Judge. Trying to think of who else these days is just like the guy. I mean, right now, I mean, yeah, it's
nothing else.
I guess because then it comes down to like what makes power. Is it like the ability to get to it in games? What is that like? It's tough to really say what 80 grade is. That's a tough line to draw. I don't think he's quite there, but he's damn close, and I could see him with some approach adjustments and getting more balls, in the zone on his barrel. He does have the upside to get to 80 power, and that would make him again one of the 5, at least one of the 5 best power hitters in the game. So there's that upside, but I'm just not quite sure he'll get to it with the chase rate going on.
Yeah, Joey Gallo is kind of a perfect example. Like, you can have 100 out of 80 power, but if you're not a hitter, you can't get the bat to the ball, nothing will matter.
Yeah, you do need a little polish. Like, the tools, like on the offensive side at least, the other tools don't really align so much. Hit and power, like the way I evaluate prospects, at least, I think there's just the tiniest bit of overlap. Power helps you be a better hitter, And being a better hitter helps you hit for more power. You can grade guys exclusively off of their raw power, but I think you have to, really display the game power grade when you're giving someone an actual grade. And for Jack, I think that the game power is downplayed by some of those hitting qualities. So yeah, that's a 70 for me, but it's a conversation, and that in and of itself is impressive.
There you go. I think we've done. I think we spoke on everybody that we think we'd be comfortable with drafting.
I think those are the main. I don't know if we need to really. I could take you to our other car lot and we could discuss, Nick Kurtz, Braden Montgomery. Again, those are guys we'd be comfortable with, but I think as of right now, they should be in the peripheral vision, maybe even rear view mirror, where we're hopefully not looking too much at those guys.
Yeah, if we draft someone that we didn't just talk about, it went south. Like something went wrong.
Yeah, and at that point, I don't think there's a number that you can put on the savings to your draft pool that you get. It's like you're in this position. How often do you pick number 3 overall? Take a guy you're really confident is going to be a franchise player, more so than anybody else. Like that really should be your goal. If you can save money in the process, that's cool. But it should be much more of a streamlined decision.
I agree. So let's second round, or I guess comp A, comp B, whatever it is. End of the first round, we have a pick. I think it's pick 38. Give me your favorite prospect. I know you love the pitchers in that spot. What is your one prospect that you really hope we draft?
The one for me at this point, he's really risen, and he's been kind of a riser as of late. This is a guy that, a month ago I was not really in on so much, and it's Tyson Lewis. He's a shortstop from Nebraska, not Nebraska, University of Nebraska. He is a high schooler from Nebraska, Tyson Lewis. There's just 5-tool potential like oozing out of him. It is huge power for a high school hitter and a ton of athleticism. Like he is a special combination of power and speed at shortstop. Like that's fantastic. And by all accounts, he's a really polished hitter as well. Like maybe not, gonna enter the pro ranks and hit 300, run a 400 on base percentage, but he's gonna hit enough to really get to that power. So Tyson Lewis out of Nebraska, the Nebraska high school ranks, he's become a guy. Like if the Rockies were picking in the middle of the first round, I'd be like, we should be considering that. And overall in that range, I really want the Rockies to get a prep bat. That it's a demographic of players that really works out well for teams, and the Rockies really haven't taken their shot at that enough, and I think there's a ton of upside in taking players from the prep ranks. When
does the ACL season end?
It is. I think it's the end of July. I'm not sure. So, okay. It's funny you bring that up because I think it's a factor in all this with the young kids.
Yeah, because I was thinking like these prep guys, you can't put them in A-ball. But I know these rookie seasons, they end very quickly. So development wise, what do you do with that? It's tough.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they've now done that. I guess you really do have to feed some of these high school kids to the wolves. I'm sure a lot of them, I think the complex games will probably still kind of continue, but it'll mostly just be intra-squad, the guys playing the guys, of the Rockies, and maybe they get some scrimmages, but it's not the same type of development as, we're tracking stats, we're tracking everything. This is going to, make an impact on your future. So that is something to consider with these high schoolers, though.
Well, how many of these guys can start in high A and immediately make a difference? Is it just college guys, or even some college guys can't do it?
I think. Wait, you said high A or
just A ball, just Fresno.
I think in A ball, including the high school guys, I think most of like the top 50 prospects in this class, top 50 picks, there's going to be a couple of those high school guys who are a little extra far away, like kind of thing. It's funny thing about like a Riley Pint. No, nothing else to discuss there, promise. But like the Rockies drafted him, and we all know at this point that they probably thought he was further along than he was. He was a guy, he wasn't ready for A ball coming out of the draft. There's always going to be a couple of those high school guys scattered around, but I would say more than half of these high school guys are ready to go into A ball straight out of the draft. Like they're just such talented players. The polish needs to get applied. They need to continue growing and all that. But most of them, I think, can handle it. And then certainly all the high college guys really they can make it in A ball.
All right, I'm gonna switch the topic here. I'm gonna paint a picture for you. All right, you have a pitcher. He's on. It's in the ninth inning. His pitch count's up to 150, but he gets the complete game because he can use both hands to pitch. Why shouldn't we draft this guy? Like, even look past the stats, past the miles per hour. They look pretty good though. Why is there a reason why we shouldn't just take a chance on this guy?
I mean, no, there's not a reason we should not. I'm on your side on this. That would be pretty special. Like, imagine mid at bat, the guy takes his glove off, and you're like, "What do you not think?" Like, you think he's just taking a break. You're like, "Put your glove back on," and he's like, "All right, watch what you wish for," and puts it on his other hand. That would be scary. That would be so scary that you have to deal with. I mean, if it's a guy who throws like 4 pitches from each side, he throws 8 pitches basically. That's scary.
Yeah, you're seeing it in 2 different ways. I didn't even think about that during the at bat to change it. But yeah, we're talking about Gerangelo Kinji. I don't know how to say that.
I think it's. I want to say it's like Saint-G.
Saint-G. Okay. There you go.
They said it on an MLB Network interview like a week ago, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna store that, and I already forgot. So we'll clear that up soon. But
well, it's funny because
I
think we always make the joke, like, you see a switch batter. It's like, well, what if you do a switch pitcher? It's here. Like, we have it here. I don't know if it's ever – actually, I think it has been done. I think the A's had to do that. Did it a couple years back. But is there – what hand is the better hand for him?
Definitely the right hand. He is like mid-90s, solid secondaries from the right side. The left side, I mean, it gets into that like Jack Caglianone territory where you have to ask the question, like, is he going to remain a switch pitcher? He's a lot lower octane from the left side. I don't think he really throws 2 pitches from the left side. So I guess I tried to hype him up saying guy throws 4 pitches from each side. He throws 8. He really is just a 2-pitch guy from the left side and is usually 91 to 93. That from the right side, though, if he was only a right-handed pitching prospect, I think he's a first-round pick. He's that good from the right side. He's like up to 97, a really good slider. He throws a changeup. He throws strikes. So he's a really interesting guy to deal with. I think you would want to develop him both ways because if you can go out there, there's always going to be certain hitters who are really uncomfortable facing same side pitching. So
you can't platoon against this guy is what I'm getting at. Like, he's a right-handed pitcher, but you can't throw out a guy who can only hit right-handed pitchers because he'll just go out and take that at bat with the left hand. So, yeah, he's probably my favorite prospect in this draft just because I've never seen it. I don't know. I mean, the Rockies, we talk about their development. They can't even develop 1 arm, let alone maybe we're going to go with 2. So maybe it's too much for him, but
yeah, I mean, fortunately, again, I think that him as a right-handed pitcher gives him a good enough fallback that, okay, this guy can get by at least some way. Like, he might not make it as the 2-way pitcher, which gets him, gets you more excited about him. But man, he is still just such a good prospect from the right side. I think that's going unnoticed now because of the discourse about him throwing with both hands. Like, I think in that interview, though, just a little aside, I think he's a natural lefty, but he picked up throwing right-handed, and now he touched 99.4 this year with the right hand. Like, he's gonna be like a primary righty. He's really good as a right-handed pitcher. If I haven't said that enough yet.
There you go. That's my pick. That's my whichever pick, 38 or 42, whatever one we go with. I want him in one of those picks. Yeah. Let's go to the prep pitchers. I know we don't have the data for prep pitchers in terms of like miles per hour, or we probably have that, but like velocity, spin rate. Who's your favorite prep pitcher? We could maybe go over slot. I know prep pitcher is a dangerous game to play, but
yeah, there's 2 that could be in play. Picks 38, 42. If you save money at the top, we're tying our themes here together. If you go under slot at the top of the draft and you save yourself somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, now you're able to price down. That's what you call it when you go over slot with one of these high school guys. You price them down to pick 38 or 42. And those 2 guys for me, it'd be Ryan Sloan out of Illinois or Chris Livonis out of New Jersey. And I haven't gotten to dig into Sloan too much yet, but from what I've seen, and we've talked about this at large just on the regular Blake Street Banner podcast, the lower slot and the extension to home plate, and that's sort of like the Sean Sullivan thing. From what I've seen, Ryan Sloan, like he embodies that. And there's a great pitching frame. He's into the mid 90s already as a high schooler. Has a a nasty changeup that I've seen. And then on the other side, Chris Livonis that I mentioned from New Jersey. He's like this smaller kid. I think he weighs like 170 pounds. At least he looks like it. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He throws a ton of spin on every pitch that he throws. Like fastball's like 2,600 RPMs. He throws a breaking ball with like 3,000 RPMs. It's just such a live arm when you watch him. Like you see that arm and you're like, if my arm could move that fast, maybe I would be a pitcher too. Like it's crazy special, almost regardless of all the other, facets of his game. But he also throws 4 pitches that are pretty legit. So those are the 2 guys from the prep pitching ranks, at least high in the draft. I think there's a couple other prep pitchers that, the Rockies might be considering later on from Colorado, and we can get into those guys a little bit later. But for now, at pick 38 and 42, Ryan Sloan, Chris Livonis, 2 guys I would be keeping an eye on. Also 2 guys from the Northeast. And the Rockies, just a kind of a fun fact to throw in. If you look at a lot of the birthplaces where guys went to high school of a lot of Rockies draft picks, a ton of them are from the Northeast. Like I think a lot of that comes down to they get a feel for them in high school. They maybe don't have the opportunity or just see the fit to draft them out of high school. They wait till they're 3 years out of college and boom, they draft a lot of those guys. The Rockies have a big presence in the Northeast, so both those guys are firmly in that region.
Yeah, there's a guy, and this is a type of player that 9 out of 10 times I'm wrong on, but 10 out of 10 times I'm drafting this player, Tommy White. Should I be this excited about Tommy White in the second round or not?
I mean, I think it'd be a hard pick to be unexcited about. For me, I'd be kind of in the middle. I'd be like, okay, the Rockies haven't really drafted much in terms of power definitely last year in 2023. They did draft Jordan Beck the year before that. He has a ton of pop. But the power drafting has been kind of out of commission for the Rockies. And Tommy White is a guy who gets to his power. It's not huge power. Like the home run totals are a little misleading in terms of the true raw power that we see. But kind of like we mentioned earlier, like the ability to lift the ball, to get, your bat on the ball a lot is going to help your power play out. So that's sort of what you're seeing with Tommy White. It's good bat to ball skills for the fact that he does have easy above average power. But he's a first baseman, and we just spent 15 minutes ragging on first baseman. So it's one of those you really could go back and forth on.
So in the spreadsheet you sent me, Mike Serrata. If I'm not wrong, this guy was like a top 5 projected pick. Where did that go wrong at? And I know it's a little off topic, just kind of.
No, he and Tommy White. Yeah, he and Tommy White were like neighboring on all of the draft boards earlier in the season. Both were like, oh, these guys could be high first round picks. Tommy White had a good season, but I think some of those issues that chase rate is there with Tommy White dropped him down a little bit. The production wasn't elite. Mike Sirota, I think it's just existing issues really came to light with him. With Tommy White, it was kind of like, okay, let's actually give him a deeper look. With Mike Sirota, he swung and missed a lot in his career, and he does a good job limiting strikeouts because he has such great plate discipline, really good knowledge of the zone, but he swings and misses actually a lot. His in zone contact percentage is basically 80%, which that's only going to get worse in the pros. As we all know, you kind of want something a lot higher entering the pros, and he also played for a pretty small program at Northeastern, so certainly going to get a lot harder going into the pros. But he gets it done in center field. And piggybacking off of our positional value discussion, getting a center fielder with good plate discipline and some power, like you couldn't go wrong there.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because I remember his name a couple months ago, and now I'm looking at it. It's like, wow, 3rd round we can get him. That's great value. You loved your pitchers, so let's go and just talk about the college pitchers that are available. Just run through them. I like the kid from Duke, but go and just run through them. And which one are you most excited about? What do they bring to the table? Any of them fit the Rockies mold, like Sean Sullivan?
Yeah, there's three guys that I think would be best in play at picks 38 or 42. I mean, they could get creative and look a little further down the board. You mentioned Jonathan Santucci, the Duke kid. He's a lefty from Duke, and just not many lefties are throwing with the type of velocity that he has, the type of stuff. He's got three very developed pitches. The command is a little spotty. That's sort of going to give any team some room for pause. I mean, he'd be a first-round pick if his command was just a little bit better. I don't think he's quite like a Sean Sullivan, but he isn't. He has kind of like a normal three-quarter slot. Extension's pretty normal. So he's just good mostly because of the actual arm itself, less about like kind of the craftiness that Sean Sullivan brings. Then the other two guys, the college arms that I think really will be in play at that point, Ryan Johnson from Dallas Baptist and Bryce Cunningham from Vanderbilt. Ryan Johnson, like if you look at his numbers, I mean, that's going to lure you in already. I think he walked like 12, less than 20 guys for sure. He walked less than 20 guys this year in like almost 100 innings or somewhere in that range. Really impressive numbers overall is the point. And there's great arm talent there. He's been up to 98 with a really effective fastball that he pinpoints that thing. I mean, that's the real selling point there with him. It's a very good fastball, but also has a plus slider. So he's right now he's kind of a two-pitch guy. I think that's a little bit concerning in terms of taking a college guy so high that two pitches. You want more than that, especially when he's not like a super hard thrower. You think about guys. Think of a Jaden Hill coming out of college. Like that guy was throwing mid upper 90s. We see that in the minors now. You were okay taking some risk on because of how hard he threw. That's not quite here, but I still really like Ryan Johnson as just a pinpointer with good stuff. And then in terms of Bryce Cunningham, he fits a lot of the kind of the Rocky stuff that I want. He's a great extender to the plate, has a nasty changeup, which I'm hoping to see more changeups. Kind of the splitter type changeups in the Rocky system. And his isn't really like a splitter, but that thing just runs like crazy. So Bryce Cunningham, he's averaging about 95 on his fastball, up to 97. I'm a huge fan of that. It's a big frame. Again, he gets really extended. He uses that whole frame to get down the hill. So those are the three college guys that I would most like on the pitching side at pick 38 or 42. Why not get two of them?
I was going to say, you bring up a really good point with the reliever thing. I know reliever risk is a negative term, but if you draft a guy and you're like, hey, I like this guy as a starter, but if it doesn't work out, there's a good chance he's one hell of a reliever, like Jaden Hill, Riley Pint, relevant. But yeah, so those are the type of dudes that I kind of love the most because you need relievers, believe it or not. And I do think relievers, it's that position that you kind of they kind of fall to you. You don't go out there looking for a reliever, especially first 3-4 rounds. But yeah, any other college bat you want to go ahead and just shout out for us here?
Yeah, I think the really fun one recently that's popped up is Dylan Dreiling. And I was really high on him early in the season, but kind of like this would be a great third round pick. I don't know if he'd make it to the fourth. Now it's like he's definitely not making it to the Rockies' third round pick. He had a crazy college playoff season. He had several huge home runs. And he's a master of the strike zone. There's really good power there. He's got some speed. The bat to ball skills aren't amazing. But they're certainly not in a territory where it's really a knock on him. I still think he's a 55 grade hitter with 55 power. Again, some athleticism. So Dylan Dreiling is a guy that I'm getting really high on. Take him at one of those spots, go under slot. Just get yourself another Tennessee outfielder, though. I think we've had a good experience with those guys in the last couple of years, at least.
It's funny. We I think it was probably like a month or two ago. We have a Tennessee fan that texts the BSB Twitter account, and they texted something about the draft, and I responded. I was like, I really like Christian Moore in the second round. And they were like, he won't be there. Because at the time, he was a second-round player. And this account was like, yeah, he's not going to be there second round. So wish we could get Christian Moore. But there's one guy. Let me pull him up. I have Slade Caldwell. Love this guy. I know this is the last we're gonna talk about these first, second picks, I guess. Good bat speed, and I think he can hit all fields, center field, so you don't really have to worry about the position thing. Although he's still a high schooler, if I'm not wrong. Hopefully, I got the right guy. Lacks power. And he's an on-base machine. I think Slade Caldwell has a lot of ability to, whether that's the defense, that's the speed, or that's the on-base. If one of those things can hit, he can become a really good player, a really valuable player.
I mean, I think he's like a Corbin Carroll. I think the comparisons and the similarities run deep. The frame, both are left-handed. Not getting a lot of credit for their power, but I think that the bat speed is there to support, 15, 20 home runs, and then everything else is going to be good to great. So Slade Caldwell, if he can make it out of the first round, that would be a guy I'd be very eager to see the Rockies consider.
Yeah, it'd definitely be an overslot, right? Like we'd have to sell out for that one.
I think a little bit. I think that 38th pick is worth about $2.5 million. I think you'd have to get that closer to $3 million, but $3 million is probably like the happy, number where you don't have to worry about anything. So you might need an extra $500,000 to get a guy like Slade Caldwell.
Okay. Oh, and then I'm gonna lob this idea. I lobbed it at the end of the BSP pod last, and I was like, I'm gonna have this idea ready. Here's my idea for the Rockies, right? Either the first pick, second, or third pick. You don't choose anybody, or you choose somebody. And I did figure out the rule, by the way. If they take a physical, you have to give them 75%. So draft dudes that aren't taking physicals, save the money because you get a comp pick. So next year when we get the money for a comp pick, we get the Holiday guy. Ethan Holiday, I think it's who it is.
Yeah, it's Ethan.
Ethan Holiday. Last time I said Jackson, but wish we could get Jackson. And we get Ethan Holiday, who would probably be the number one player in this draft class. Is that a foolproof strategy or what?
Yeah, I think getting that extra money, it actually is a pretty good strategy, especially if you don't want to punt that number 3 pick. But yeah, if you were to punt 38 or 42, you
can't punt 38 because you can't do comp.
Oh, it's the comp. Okay, comp to comp. But yeah, 42, you just kind of say like, we might not sign this. I mean, you don't say that to anybody, but you're like, hey, we're not going to offer you close to slot. What do you think? Maybe.
Draft the number one who's the number one high school prospect? Draft that guy. Like that's
because Ethan Holiday. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, with that second round pick, it's like someone that it's like, I wanted to go first round. I'm going to college. Take him, and when the signing doesn't work out, you don't look like shady players, and then you get Ethan Holiday. So everyone can be happy.
Realistically, though, this would never work. Well, like obviously, this is just kind of like a joke, but really dumb thing. So that's, I think when we draft a player 38-42, is that a top 100 prospect or are we off that range?
I think one of those guys, depending on who it is, I think there's certainly a chance. And the issue kind of comes down to like every outlet's a little bit different. Like some of these guys that we just talked about, I think some outlets would have them as top 100 guys. But the way MLB.com's is laid out, like, I think they're very, fixed in the way that they're ranking these guys. They're only going to have like 8, maybe 9 of these guys as top 100 prospects. I think if you look at the MLB.com list, it probably cuts off at Connor Griffin. And Connor Griffin might even be fighting a little bit of a battle to get in there, but I think he will be in the top 100. Other outlets, though, might say a guy like Slade Caldwell should be a top 100 prospect. But for the most part, you're not getting one at 38 or 42, but hey, give it a year, and I think there's always a good chance with that. We saw it with Jordan Beck, Sterling Thompson. Both those guys are currently top 100 on MLB's list, and they were drafted basically in those exact spots 2 years ago.
Yeah, so as we're getting later on into this draft, after pick 50, where's the strength in the draft? Like, is there a position that has just an immense amount of depth?
Yeah, so I think this is a really good place to kind of like tell where the conversation is as we wrap things up here. This is the true big picture. How does this draft shape up? What is the structure of it? And it's going to be hitter heavy at the top. We talked at large about all those hitting prospects. Once you get out of the first round, the hitting guys are gonna draft really quick. Like the Rockies will have a chance at 38-42 if they wanted to to get a pretty premier hitter in this draft class, like one of the 15 to 20 best hitters in the draft. They could get one or two of those guys there. I think it really dries up fast, though. And then after that, the pitching gets really deep from kind of that, right after where the Rockies pick there through their 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th round pick. There's a lot of really solid pitchers that are coming from the college ranks in there. All of them are going to have some kind of really standout characteristic, or a blend of good characteristics. So this is a draft where I think ideally you want to get a hitter or two at the top of the draft because it's so much more suited later in the middle of this draft to just nail college pitching. And that we know is what the Rockies are. We know they're going to do that. We know they like to do that. This draft is made for them to add a bunch of really solid pitchers, rounds 3 through 6 probably.
Yeah, and I went to that pivot because round 3 should it just be? Are we just kind of honing in on pitchers there? Who's your guy round 3? I know we're getting far to have a guy. Like it's usually you have a group of guys you pick from, but who's the guy that you like there?
Man, that is really tough because if you guys saw our rundown right now, I have like 7 guys, all college pitchers at pick 77. That's actually, is it 7? Yeah, it is 7. So I didn't intend to do that, but it's 7 pitchers at pick 77. Whoever they take, yeah, we have just sealed the deal there. I think if I had to pick one of them, I'm probably going Ryan Fortucci out of UC San Diego. He's one of I have a lot of guys in this draft class that I know the Rockies probably won't get any of them, but if kind of regardless where they go, though, I'm going to support them and just hope for the best. That's Ryan Fortucci. He's one of those guys. Such a good fastball. Like it's not super high velocity, but he's one of those guys. He gets underneath the baseball well. Also generates a ton of spin. It's one of the best carrying fastballs in this draft class. I think he's super athletic on the mound. Throws a really good slider. A little bit two pitch pitchery right now, but I see top of the rotation upside kind of sneaky later in the draft there. Like if you can develop that third pitch, that fastball just has the potential to wreck games. And then a really good slider as well. So Ryan Fortucci is definitely my guy. I don't think he's gonna end up making it that far, but I don't know what injury he had this year. He didn't really pitch much though. He started a little bit early in the season and then just didn't make it to conference play. Didn't play, late in the season. So whatever the injury was, it's going to hurt his draft stock a good bit. And that's the only reason I think he could be available at pick 77. So that's definitely my guy to hammer the nail in right there.
Gotcha. I'm going to give you a name, Carter Holton. How often can a guy throw 5 pitches at, I think he had 5 pitches. It wasn't like he had a 5th pitch that he used twice. Like he used 5 pitches in all games. I know the stats weren't that great, but I think Holton is a guy that can become a starter that's front end, probably on a front end, probably more of a back end guy. Do you like Carter Holton, left-hander out of Vanderbilt? Yeah,
he's one of those 7 that I had picked out. One of the 7. We'll remember this list. The list isn't going to get. We'll leave the name. I think at some point or another, all those guys are going to be in a mock draft or something on BSB. But Carter Holton, I like him a ton. He in some ways kind of reminds me of Kyle Freeland. There's some funk there, deep arsenal. But Carter Holton averages like 93 on his fastball, which that is what separates him from a guy like Kyle Freeland. A lot of power there. If you watch him pitch, it's really fun seeing him get around the baseball so much. Like his delivery is tailored to like get sideways almost. Like he wants to just spin the crap out of the ball, generate as much movement as he can. So I think there's a lot of upside in that arsenal. Like you said, I don't think he's a top of the rotation guy, but would be a great 5th starter to try and develop.
Gotcha. Let's go ahead and just run through these guys for everybody. Like give a short, just the 7. We went through 2 of them. So you have 5 left. Go ahead and just short little thing about them and just hype them up.
Yeah. So the final 5 of the 7, we have Gage Jump, another lefty. And if you're a draft person, you probably heard of him. I think he was in the 2021 class. He was a projected 1st-round pick in the 2021 class at a high school and opted to go to college. He started at UCLA, ended up at LSU. It's another kind of low mid-90s lefty who flashes just really good secondary stuff, and I think that's the main selling point there. And then for me, where it gets fun, Josh Randall out of the University of San Diego. He gets so downhill with the baseball. Like his changeup it's diving down. His fastball is a heavy running two-seamer, but he can also, because he gets underneath the baseball really well too when he wants to, he can throw kind of a rising fastball. I think he has a chance to rise really, like, no pun intended, rise really far in this draft, because some team is going to say there's a ton of potential there to work with, A, the rising fastball, but then B, that downhill arsenal. And then the last three, Peyton Tolley, I'll throw him in with Michael Massey, Peyton Tolley and Michael Massey. Those are the extension kings of the draft. Quite literally, those are the two pitchers in the draft that are going to go highly, that get the most extension in the entire draft. So I would be kind of surprised if the Rockies didn't find a way to come away with one of those arms. Just tons of extension for both of them. It helps their kind of otherwise like average fastballs play a lot better than that. So keep an eye on those two. And then my fun wild card, the final 7, Thatcher Hurd. He spins the crap out of the baseball. He's like that. He's a 3,000 RPM breaking ball type of guy. You watch his curveball, and it's menacing. Like that thing is just tough. So that's kind of my core 7 college pitchers that I would love to see the Rockies come away with at least one of them. Hopefully 2, though. Really, like, I wouldn't mind one of those guys at pick 42 even, or 38.
I agree. I think you can't ever have enough arms, and we're kind of seeing that. Like, even though we have so many good arms, I think you could always use more. And you see that every single team needs more arms, and that's why we love these 3rd round, 4th round guys. You're not really looking for the ace. You're looking for the, hey, can this guy become a back end rotation guy? Could he be a guy that has options and can be a good starter, but we can put him in AAA and option him up when we need him? Something like that. Let's transfer to I think this is going to be a fun topic, the sleepers. I'm going to ask a lot of questions, so I hope you're ready. Give me your favorite sleeper in the draft class, guy who you think, just dude that you love that no one's talking about.
I mean, I guess this guy probably is getting some talk. I know he's in the MLB top 250, but he's someone that I came across like a year ago and was just like enamored by this 5'11", really skinny build left-hander out of Iowa, Cade Obermueller. It's kind of a tweener there, kind of starter, kind of reliever. Such a fast arm. Like, again, it's this little kid. Like, he's a little guy. You would think, how is that guy a pitcher? And then he's throwing this fastball that he can gear up to like 93, 94. Really what it is, he is one of the best breaking balls in the entire draft. And again, it's because the arm talent there it's off the charts. This is just, he's such a whippy lefty. Yeah, I think that guy, if we're drafting pitchers and you're thinking maybe he's a starter, but like chances are this guy's a reliever. If you hit that in like round 4, round 5, you're not taking on much risk. You're also not, you don't have to shoot for the stars in those rounds. And getting a guy like Obermueller, I think his upside as a reliever, it's through the roof. But also, again, a chance for him to develop as a starter with the amount of arm talent that he has.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think these later rounds, once you get, I think, out of the top 80, I think it's very much, I don't like when, like, the NFL draft, when, like, people grade 6th-round picks. Like, I just think it's pointless. Like, there's nothing really on the line. For these picks, it's really all about, hey, can you fill a role? Can you provide value to the Rockies or to any team that drafts you? And I think that's where these sleepers normally, where I don't know, you might be different. I look at sleepers. I look at, hey, are you really good at one thing? And if you are, like, I love that. So I'm gonna go. I've said this name multiple times. John Spikerman. Am I maybe a little over my head here? Or this guy's built for cores. You know, maybe that's a corner spot because he doesn't have a good arm strength. But just give me the rundown on John Spikerman and why should he has 80 out of 80 speed, like, and his last name is Spikerman. Like, come on.
I mean, I would love the day that we're like in Coors Field. You know, Charlie Blackmon's not there anymore, so we no longer have his walk-up song to chant. But instead, we do, like, instead of the Spider-Man theme song, we're just chanting Spiker-Man, Spiker-Man. Like, that would make me very happy. And he plays like Spider-Man out there. You mentioned the 80 grade speed. That allows him to play like Spider-Man. Man, that on its own should make him a mid-round pick. But I think he's also just a solid hitter. Not a big power guy. But I think there's a chance he could be, you know, he'd probably fit best at like the 9-hole spot in the lineup, like to turn the lineup over. You know, he's the type of guy that you could potentially lead off, but is better suited as a second leadoff. So it's like it's a solid hitter, but you're getting just Spiker Man out in the center field. That's what you're chasing. It's kind of like a Brenton Doyle. Trade some of the raw power and strength for some better hitting ability. That's John Spikerman.
Yeah, I think the arm strength's a little questionable though. Doyle is I don't know what round he was picked in.
I think 4.
Okay, so he was a little higher because I remember the MLB pipeline had his defense at like a 55, and I was like, wow, you look stupid.
The Rockies were kind of along there with him. They played him in like right field most of his minor league career. Like didn't make it.
And then he goes and he's one of the best center fielders in it. Like I think he was the best or second best in MLB history, out above average. So
that's John Spikerman. No, don't want to put those expectations on him yet, but it's a good pick.
You put in the rundown, and I agree so much. The defense, it's kind of a really good baseline. It's a good platform. You know, if you have defense, you're not going to be horrific, even if you're bad at the plate. Like, oh, you have good defense. Who's the best defensive catcher in this draft class? I know catcher's a really weird one. It's a very weird position scouting-wise. Like, normally, if you're really good at hitting, you're not going to play catcher. Defensively, though, I know that's also really hard to scout. So, normally, you might not have the greatest answer here. But who's the guy you're going with?
I think at least from what I've seen, I would probably, and he's viewed as one of the best catchers in the draft. I'd probably go Jacob Cozart out of NC State. I haven't watched him back there in a little bit, but from what I had seen early in the season, between the arm strength, that it's just really solid arm strength. The framing ability is certainly above average, and I think that's something that everyone really wants to see right now from a catcher. We're not going to get the automated strike zone from what we've heard. It's most likely going to be the challenge system. So getting a good framer is still going to be really, really important. He hasn't been like the best blocker, so I think that's where I just would have to get a little more familiar with the kind of the depth here. But Jacob Cozart definitely is a guy who's going to be an above average defensive catcher because of that arm and the framing ability.
It's like Patrick Bailey. I think Bailey, the one thing is the blocking, if I'm not wrong. That's his downside. But
I mean, he's definitely like throw him out guy.
Any defensive shortstop? I know 2 years ago we got Ryan Ritter, 4th round. It's looking great. The bat has developed. Any Ryan Ritter in this draft class?
It's hard to find one with the same type of power that Ritter had. That's a big stump for me.
I think Ritter was overslot too, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, he was. Someone I've kind of ran into him scouting a little bit early this season. Some people were like, oh, he's a first rounder, and coming into the year I didn't really see it. Kyle DeBarge out of Louisiana Lafayette. But this year he did actually break out. He was a guy who didn't really have any power. And so it's really not a Ritter comp on the bat side, but glove wise, like he's this really small dude, like 5'9", 180. His arm is like when I watched him throw across the diamond, I'm like, wait, that didn't get sped up on me. Like that's not 2x speed. Like he can throw really hard across the diamond, and he's super fast, great range. But this year he showed like kind of sneaky bat speed. So Kyle DeBarge, someone that I think is getting lost in the shuffle at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if someone kind of just pulls the trigger on him as a late first round underslot guy. But I mean, we look at all the draft boards, and he's someone who's ranked well outside the first round, like in the 60s. But his glove is going to stick at shortstop, and he's going to be a really fun player out there.
I agree. I think that's kind of the type of player you're looking for in this 3rd round. I'm going to throw out a name, not a 3rd round guy. I don't even know where this guy would get. Darian Pendergrass. I know I brought him up. I listened to weird music, and he played on like a summer league team that did a Hootie and the Blowfish like jersey giveaway. Like they played in them. So I have his game used jersey, and I watched it. So I wear it. And then I saw this guy's name. And I was like, wow, this guy's draft eligible, and people were talking about him. All right, let's hope this guy gets drafted to the Rockies. So hoping the Rockies. It'd be a really funny story. Like I'd wear the jersey.
Wait, it was a game-worn jersey of his that you now have?
Yeah.
Oh,
Clean
man.
it. Got the tide, Is that like disrespectful or?
That's a tough one. I mean, I feel like with Darian Pendergrass, And no, like we don't want to throw shade, but also like with Darian Pendergrass, I don't think it's like insulting. Like it's Darian Pendergrass jersey, not like if you got like a Hall of Famers jersey that he wore in the game, like you couldn't watch that. But Darian Pendergrass, small dude out of College of Charleston, like that's probably the only game worn jersey that people are gonna get of his. Like, I guess in that way, maybe you shouldn't have washed it. Like that might be the only Darian Pendergrass game worn jersey that anyone ever gets. So, but no, from what I've seen, he actually he's a pretty solid all around player. We'll see kind of if he does push his way into like sort of the back of this draft on day 3.
He reminds me a lot of like Caleb Hobson, where I think he'll be drafted. I think he'll go to Fresno, and I think like he'll make fun plays, but the overall ceiling I think is limited.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely not a guy who's going to hit for power, but anytime someone plays center field and all that, we've talked about defense a couple times. If you play center field, you're going to have a real easy time getting drafted if you do anything else well. And even if you don't do anything else well, if you can play good center field, you're going to get drafted.
And it's different because the Rockies be playing Coors, huge outfield. Like we need that more than anybody else. I think Brendan Doyle brings the most value to us than any other team. So I look for that, like center field speed. That's fun stuff. Any pitchers? I know you have a lot of West Coast guys. You put out an article with Prospects Live. Great article. Any pitcher though that you really like? Probably what would it be? Day 3? Is that or end of day 2?
I guess end of day 2. Trying to think of the main ones that I guess I'll go with Jacob K-Mats out of Oregon State. He's definitely not as valued high. Like his teammate Aiden May is going to be probably a late second, early third round pick. Jacob K-Mats though is probably going to go 3, 4, maybe even 5 rounds later, like kind of like a Jace Kaminska. I think that's going to be my comp for him in some ways. I think Jacob K-Mats is kind of like a Jace Kaminska that could go round 8, round 9 in that range. Probably a little bit before that though. Probably more like round 6. But you never know with some of these guys if they could slip a couple of rounds. So it's going to be a long draft though, and there's a lot of opportunities for guys like this.
I'm trying to find because I saw Josh. Is it Hartle? Yeah, Josh Hartle. Josh Hartle. Round 3 to 6, and if I'm not remembering, like I feel like a year ago I tweeted out something like it was like a mock draft, and I had us taking him. So I'm trying to see if I can find it. I can't find it. But what happened to his draft stock? Did it just tank? Like 3 to 6 is a bad fall.
Yeah, I mean, it really did tank. And, I think he was viewed as a first-round guy early in the season. But he averages 90 on his fastball, and it's like, oh, what about Sean Sullivan? But he really lacks, like, those other characteristics that make a fastball good. It's not a bad fastball because he's a locator. He is a command guy. But Josh Hartle, though, just it's such low-power stuff, and the secondaries just really aren't great. Like, I think at this point though he's gonna get underdrafted because I think that he throws enough pitches, he's crafty enough, and he has good enough command that he's gonna get through the minors as a starter. I just don't see that much upside as a big league starter. But these guys that are pitchers, like they figure it out. So I wouldn't rule anything out with someone like Josh Hartle, but the upside is not there that teams would be wanting early in the draft.
All right. I think any other draft prospect you want to cover? Because we've fit a pretty good hour plus mark here.
Yeah, I feel like our listeners are going to be very, very set. I guess the one final guy, someone that another kind of in that Josh Hartle mold, someone viewed as a first rounder early in the draft season, Will Taylor, outfielder from Clemson. I think he was supposed to be a first rounder also 2 years ago, didn't end up wanting to sign, goes to Clemson because he was going to play football there. That tells you he was going to be a running back at Clemson. So if that tells you anything about this guy's ability as an athlete. But he got injured early in the season. I think it was I want to say he broke his hand, but I might be off on that. I just see a really solid 5-tool outfielder there. I mean, he's not as fast as you would expect, but he still is a really good athlete, balances speed and kind of strength there. I see average power, above average hitter. Again, some of that speed, he can play center. So Will Taylor, I think, is going to get, he's going to be one of the bargains of this draft class. So that's definitely the guy that I kind of want to finish on here.
Yeah, there's one guy, Dakota Jordan from Mississippi State. Draft eligible sophomore, so he's a little younger. He was scouted by the Mississippi State football team, which is interesting because we also have a Brad Cumbus, who's tight end from Mississippi State. So I think that'd be a really funny storyline. We get two of them. But yeah, that's my guy. I like Jacob Friend from Davidson. Actually, fun fact, Jacob Friend, I think he's a hockey defenseman. So I looked him up, and then they were like, Jacob Friend, defenseman. So I was like, oh, this guy's great at defense. So I did like a tweet like, Jacob Friend. So I think I got the wrong guy. So I think I got the wrong guy, but still a draft.
It's just his friend, Jacob Friend.
Yeah. So there you go. Any other closing remarks? It should be a fun draft.
I mean, yeah, I guess just to kind of preface our coverage here, I mean, this is going to be the first, like, we went deep here. There's a lot of names. We probably talked about 25, 30 guys. Half of them you won't remember. Hopefully a couple of them do end up with Colorado. It's kind of the goal here. We want to talk about people who actually end up Rockies.
There's a kid from Colorado we have to preface, right? That pitcher?
I guess we can throw one more name into the fire.
Yeah, we have to.
I know he's been mentioned at points on pods. I've definitely brought him up. But Trey Gregory Alford from Colorado Springs, he's the guy who threw 100 at the combine. So if you haven't heard of him yet, you should. That blew his draft stock up. So we're gonna see a Colorado prep pitcher drafted probably in the top 50, maybe even pushing top 40. Gonna be in play for the Rockies, I'm sure, but it might be kind of the risky style of arm that they kind of shy away from.
Yeah, there you go. Well, the people from Colorado, that's your want. Like, that's the guy you should be rooting for to be drafted. But yeah, there you go. That's just I did interrupt you there, but I thought that was important to get off.
No, I did. Yeah, we mentioned at the top that there are Colorado pitchers, so we'll get a lot more coverage on everything here written. We'll do at least another pod before the draft, and then we've got a really fun draft night coming up that I want everyone to be excited about. That we want some participation from the folks out there and the BSB Rockies community. Stick around, stay tuned. Like, we're gonna have a full on live draft show started a little bit before the draft, so you can hear us talk, and then we'll kind of let the draft presentation do its thing and discuss those picks. And I don't think there's a better place to get that Rockies draft coverage from. So stay tuned with us. Thanks for sticking around. If you're hearing this message right now, thank you for sticking through almost 80 minutes of draft talk with us. And yeah, we'll be back shortly in a couple of weeks, early July. I mean, the draft's in a couple of weeks. So what am I saying? We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll be back in about a week and a half for another one of these pods. And then it's draft time, and the Rockies have a glimpse into their future. So anything else for the good of the cause?
I was going to say, I just did an interview like an hour before we did this, which I'm not going to say with who, and there's also a huge interview that I didn't know was happening. I'm really jealous of Noah that he gets to do the interview, but there's a lot of good stuff coming for draft night. A lot of cool interviews. Probably the coolest interview we've ever done coming draft night. I don't know if you know.
I haven't even figured out who it is yet. I think I have the document to figure out who.
Yeah, you do. Most of the document is because they sent me the document for my interview. But my interview was like 3 bullet points, and like 2 pages were like for this other guy. Because
I'm pulling the doc up. Oh my god!
Not a guy we get to talk to. Yeah.
Oh my god! All right. Yeah. Draft night. Draft pod.
I hate Noah now. Like, I'm so jealous of Noah.
Yeah, I don't. We'll let Aaron or Noah decide when they want to spoil who that is. But I mean, I guess based off our reactions, people might figure it out.
No.
But it's gonna be such a fun draft night, day one. You could stick with us through day 2, day 3, but day 1, we're gonna have a lot of fun. We want to get connected with everybody. So, come watch us live. If you really want to hop in the show, hit us in the DMs. Of course, we want to just hear from you now, and we might get some fan reactions to some of these picks. So, stay tuned. Ton of fun stuff coming. We're having a blast with it. I hope you guys are too. So,
yes.
Go Rocks in their future draft picks. Woo!
Thank you for watching and listening. Please check out our